mostly an older population.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot of dial back stuff, you know what I mean? But getting down to basics, I don't know, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, you just teach them basic. Teach them
Exactly.
something new. How to move
Definitely
their
different
body.
from what we were doing there, but it
Yeah, but
wasn't
it's the
bad.
same concepts though. Like
Exactly.
I'm doing the same thing. I got 80-year people. I teach them how to move. They're like, "Fuck, nobody ever taught me this."
Exactly. Exactly.
They're still willing to learn at 80. You know,
Exactly. So
get
there's
rid of
always
their
room.
pain. Yeah,
Always room for
movement
improvement.
is an art form. It's
Hmm.
mostly art form, and then there's some science behind it.
Exactly.
But people get tied up in all the science way too much.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's important. You need to know that stuff, but you're trying to teach somebody.
It's a little bit of both.
Well, it's more than just their pain.
Yeah.
They got other stuff attached to that. All their
Yeah.
emotional issues and other shit attached to it. They're not even talking about any of that stuff.
That's
So
true.
when I treat somebody, I'm looking at the whole context, not just this isn't a physical thing.
Exactly.
There's way more involved, and that takes skill and time to figure
Mhm.
that out. And so if you're good at that realm, it's going to
That's
make it
true.
easier for you to connect with somebody. Then
That's very true.
just like go, you got to do this training, needs to do exercises,
Mhm.
and that's it. You're not a gym teacher like
Yeah.
that.
Exactly.
That
People want
all the kids hate
a
because you're just
connection
paying
before that.
gas.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean,
You don't understand them on a different level, though. Yeah.
try to.
Yeah.
Like I'm not looking at just like you got to exercise.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to exercise. You never did before, right? Now we're trying to get you to do something that I need to have an emotional connection to you to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to do it.
That's
It's like
true.
you're wasting my time and your time.
Yeah.
Like, don't bother coming here because I can't help you because you have other issues that are related to your pain that we're not even talking about, and your doctor's not talking about. You know,
You
so
just
like,
answered one of my questions. That's exactly right. Because
some people have mechanical problems. They tear their ACL or they tear their quad tendon, they get surgery.
yeah.
Probably not as much emotional connection to their pain, right? That's
Mhm.
just like a traumatic
But
experience.
pain is complex. And
Yeah,
there's
it's
a lot of
complex, but
connection.
that's somebody that I'm not gonna have to unravel as much.
Right. Right. You're
What else
saying
is creating your pain in your back?
exactly.
I don't. Is it mechanical only? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't say that to them directly always, but I'm trying to just get a read on somebody. Like, what are they gonna do? Like, I don't need them to do every exercise I do for an ACL patient.
Yeah.
They're not. They're
It's
not
not
gonna
gonna
do it.
work if you
Yeah,
take the same approach.
they're not interested in it.
Yeah.
So like, I don't force anybody to do anything. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm your coach, and I'll help you any way I can. And if you get better, great. If you don't, like, at least we
Yeah.
gave it a shot.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. So let me just
Yeah.
real rough start at the beginning because I
Yeah.
know most of your background, right? Not most, a little bit, very little bit.
Yeah.
Tell me, did you let's just go back all the way. Did you grow up playing sports? Like, were you mostly a rower as a kid, or was it like a little bit of everything? Like, what got you into like athletics and like,
I
PT
mean,
as a whole?
that's a good question. Now, my parents were hands off with athleticism. There was no interest in. They didn't have any background at all.
Mhm.
So that was just like like I just decided I want to do something and I would
Mhm.
do it. So it wasn't really. My parents didn't play sports and they made me do all these sports like you see everywhere now, like do this, do
Yeah,
this, do
exactly.
this. Like you're in a box and you're forced to do something that a lot of kids don't even want to do it. At
Mhm.
the end of the day, they quit,
Exactly.
they get an injury, they're done because they never really wanted to do
Yeah.
it. Their parents wanted them to do it.
Yeah. Most people don't like anything they're forced into.
Right. So I know. So I got into it really just out of my dad. I grew up in this. I'm born in 1964. I grew up in the 70s. So
Mhm.
when I was, I think, 9 years old, my dad used to run. He started running in the 60s. I'm from San Mateo, California. So I lived there till I was 5. So you're in California, the 60s. Like
Beach.
it's the start of all the fitness revolution in America started in
Mhm.
California, right? That's when running became a thing to start doing as fitness. So anyway,
Mhm.
long story short, I got into the endurance stuff because my dad was drinking Gatorade after he would run,
Really?
and I was 9, and I'm like, I saw this cool green drink, and I'm like, I want to try to drink the
A
Gatorade,
reason for you to drink
and my
this.
dad was like, you can only have that if you come run with me. I was like, all right, I'll go run with you. So
That's pretty cool.
I started running with him. 3-mile runs like
Pretty cool.
3 times a week. I would start at night. I would just go out and run with him. And then I didn't even care about the Gatorade. I actually was more. I was really, really like this ability to like challenge yourself. Like go push your body. At 9, I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like Gatorade was now not so important. So that kind
Mhm.
of got me in the hook of like this human performance kind of mindset. Like
Mhm.
how can I be challenge
How
myself
far can I push
physically? Yeah.
myself?
So
Yeah.
at 9, I just dialed right in. So like I started doing that. That's my first
Exposure.
sports thing. I was playing baseball, I think,
Mhm.
but I wasn't really a great I don't think I was great at hand-eye coordination stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We all did pickup stuff back then
Mm-hmm.
as kids, so we played
Mm-hmm.
everything,
Everything.
every sport you could
The
imagine.
backyards,
I
yeah.
did all of it. I was okay at it. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
great,
Mm-hmm.
I was good enough to hang with my friends, but
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have any interest in that. I was really more. I got more intrigued these endurance. You need a lot of discipline and training stuff. Like I would do super long bike rides by myself, and and then a rowing club showed up in my town. I grew up in Huntington Harbor, basically. When I was a junior year, my junior year in high school, showed up. I played baseball my freshman year in high school, and then I got cut. I just was like a late bloomer,
Mm-hmm.
tall, skinny. I was like 5'10", 130 when I was a
Right.
sophomore in high
Wow.
school, and all the other guys were shaving and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
dirty. So like I was just dropped from organized sports, and then so my sophomore year I didn't do anything, and then junior year I didn't either until this rowing program showed up, and I'm like, hey, this sounds really cool. I had a Coast Guard license when I was 12. I owned my own boats. I water skied. Like I did
that's
all
right.
these things as a kid just because I like to be out in nature and do stuff. So the rowing was like this club showed up. I'm like, hey, this. I didn't know what the hell it was, but I'm like, this sounds pretty cool. So yeah, then I was just like instantly
Your
captured.
junior year started.
Yeah, my spring of my junior year is when I started rowing,
Wow.
and then it just directed the rest of what I did. I went to college with rowing. I wanted to just to keep rowing.
Yeah.
So it took the running, and it took because I wasn't a great runner.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the frame for
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like I was on a cross
Takes
country
a
team, but I
specific
wasn't
type
that
of,
great.
yeah.
Like I'm not a great speed distance
Right.
runner. I mean, I could go all day. I could run for 8 hours and drop all the guys
But
that
as
could run
far as
fast.
efficiency,
Yeah,
yeah, takes
that
a
wasn't really
certain
my thing. Like,
somatotype. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So anyway, that's kind of how I
yeah.
got
Okay.
into this human performance thing.
Yeah.
It's been what since nine, so like it's over 50 years. I've
Wow.
been just encapsulated by the human body and performance and what you can do. And
And then where'd you go to college again?
I went to Rutgers,
Rutgers.
New Brunswick.
Rode there.
My high school coach was Rutgers guy, so I didn't, there was no internet back then,
Uh-huh.
and I just like, yeah, all right, I'll go row.
Okay, so the funnel from the high school to college kind of worked out.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that did. I thought about maybe going to like Princeton or
Mm-hmm.
Penn, but my dad was like, if you do that, you got to do ROTC, and I'm like,
Mm.
I get up at 5 in the morning to
Pay
go
for
row in
it.
the summer.
Yeah.
Like I don't need discipline. I'm
Yes,
already doing it on
exactly.
my own. So like I
Exactly.
didn't see the military as
That's fair.
anything more than that. Like just
It
like
is a way
somebody
to
needs to
instill
get
discipline.
to
Yeah,
figure out discipline in life. I'm like, I already got it.
that's
Like
true.
my friends are sleeping. I'm up at 5 in the morning in the
Yeah.
summertime going to row
Yeah.
because boat traffic sucks at 7:30,
Yeah.
8.
Yeah.
So like I would get out and row and then go back home and go to sleep. So
So then talk to me about after college, what you ended up doing and how you ended up in the Olympics.
well, I mean, so college, the disappointment of going to Rutgers at the time was when I got there. I was the strongest guy in the boat. So they had these rowing machines that were a little different than. I wish it was Concept too, the original ones with the fans on them. They had like plastic fans on them. The
Mm.
original one. So I was the strongest guy in the boathouse as a freshman.
Well,
I was really disappointed. I was so disappointed because 2 years
so
before they.
nobody was disappointed in you. You were
I
disappointed
was
in the
disappointed
program.
because there's
Yeah, yeah.
nobody to challenge
I
me. I
got it.
was
I
like,
got it.
this is no good. So
I
the
got
2 years before they had made 1 or 2 years before they were like second in the country.
it. Mm.
So they had like this fluke of really good athletes, but it was happen chance. And then the coach didn't really draw any no talent or recruiting showed up. I just happened to show up there.
Mm.
But then I was like, it sucked for me on a personal level.
Yeah,
I could push myself, but I didn't have anybody
yeah.
else to push me.
You wanted that team
Yeah, I
aspect of the
wanted to just be a
challenge. Yeah,
part of the team where I was have to be. Not the best guy, and I have to work to become the
yeah.
best. So like I didn't really like that part of it. So then I got yeah. So then I started trying to do the under 23 national team in at Rutgers because I was like, I need more than this.
I can relate to that a lot.
Yeah, I guess like this is no good. Like
Anytime you feel like you're the best player on a team, it just doesn't
no, I
bring the
knew.
best out of you.
Yeah, no. Well, I knew there's no way I could get better if I wasn't
Yeah,
around people that were better than me. It's not
yeah.
going to work.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
So then I started trying to under 23 team in my junior year in college, and then
Hmm.
it kind of just led me into the national team,
Hmm.
venture because I wanted more out of it. My college experience was not that great from
Hmm.
a physical athletic standpoint.
Okay,
It just
and then
wasn't enough for me.
under 23 team, you ended up
I
training
didn't
with
make. I
them
got caught my junior year, but summer between my junior and senior year, I got.
of college. You got
I
cut.
went to the camp, so I got
Okay.
invited. So it was like all Ivy League guys and
Yeah.
like top guys. It was a camp at Harvard, and I'll never forget this. So like you had to run this. It was called Norwegian Erg. You had to get a score on it. So like we do the test. So we're at the camp and we all test. Everybody tests. There's maybe like 30 college kids got invited to go, plus an incoming freshman that was going to Harvard.
Mm.
So the coach was a Harvard freshman coach. He ran the camp.
Okay.
and then you were going to go off and compete at the Henley Regatta in England if
Hmm.
you made this 8. You were going for an 8. I got beat out
Out of
by
30 people, there's
yeah, like
only 8.
yeah, they took an 8-man shell, so I was roughly 30 people, something like that. And so like so we do the test. This is the first week. We do this test. I get beat by he's an incoming freshman, so he's in high school still. I'm a junior in college. I got beat by this guy. Man, was I was fucking, excuse my French.
No.
I was so
Pit.
upset. I was so upset at myself.
And so what was it? Was it
So it's called the Norwegian, or Gessingerg was the name of the erg. It was like a, just measured it was like a 6-minute piece as
okay,
hard as
okay,
you can go, right?
okay.
So it's racing you like you're racing in an H race,
Hmm.
just testing your capacity.
Okay.
So like I was like bottom third of the guys on the list. So then and then that's how I got into lifeguarding. Actually, that summer, my roommate in college came up from Cape May to get me. He's like, because once I didn't make the camp, he came to get me to go lifeguard on the beach.
Hmm.
So then I went down and lifeguard on the beach. But then my senior year, man, did I train.
Hmm.
And then so then I went back and I retested in maybe like February, March of my senior year. So like you're testing to get to the next under 23 camp for the next, the next summer. I think I had the second best score in the United States. I beat
Wow.
like I just crushed mostly everybody.
Wow.
But then that coach, that same national team coach, he was the national team coach. I tested out of Princeton's boathouse. Never met the guy before. He told me I rode so horribly. So I just crushed this erg piece, and he told me I rode so horribly that I would never be invited to go to the camp.
Really?
Right after I didn't know the guy is. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Just to like, was he serious or just to
Yeah, no,
mess with
he
you?
had some issues about that. Like
Oh,
he's
okay.
a Polish coach that had come in and coached the national team in the '84
So this is
Olympics.
your senior year. You were like the second best time, and he told you
Yeah,
you did terribly.
he said I rode so terribly on the piece because he watched me do the piece and he scored me.
Oh,
And he forgot about that he said that because I think he did this to a lot of people. I
yeah.
didn't know him. I didn't know who he was. So like I was like, the hell with this. So like I rode the piece. I just went home and I'm like, all right, I guess I'm not going to the camp.
You got a
So
call back.
well, no. So I got I saw the list. So they sent the list out
Oh,
to
yeah.
my college coach. Said, hey, he sent the list. The coach sent
You
the
were
list. So
on it.
you're on the list.
And that other
You're
freshman was
supposed to
also on it.
respond. You're supposed to respond. And I'm like, well, the guy told me I wasn't going to be invited to go to camp. So I never responded.
Really?
Yeah, because he
It-
told me. He said flat out
wow.
to me. He forgot that.
Wow.
And then like maybe like a month and a half later, we were down at Princeton. Rutgers was down at Princeton. We were training to get ready for the IRAs, which at the time was the national championships, and that's where that coach was. And he came up behind me. Well, I'm practicing my team. I'm like I'm just going. I'm going to go lifeguard in the beach in the summer again. I'd already decided that. Like
Hmm.
he comes and starts screaming at me. How dare you not respond to the thing? That you didn't respond. I'm like, I said,
You
what are you
told me I
talking about? You
sucked.
told me I wasn't go. I never said that. Whatever, he's denying it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're screaming at me, and it's like, now you're not going to Cincinnati for the summer. I'm like, I said, you're threatening me. I said, I'm going to Lifeguard in Cape May for
Yeah.
the
I
summer.
don't
I
need
had a
this.
I had a great summer last summer. So I don't
Oh,
know what this is all about, but
yeah.
so anyway, that's just
So,
kind of.
so you didn't end up doing
No,
either
I didn't
year,
get invited
junior,
to that
senior.
camp. Well, yeah,
Okay.
now because of that, like what he told me. So like it just pushed me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It just
Into a different direction.
Oh no, I trained really hard after that.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
I got even better than that. But I had an obstacle in the way. He was a
Right.
huge obstacle now because he's the national team coach.
Uh,
He's hating on me, and like I don't even know who the
for
guy is.
just that age group, or
No,
was he?
this would have been for the senior team
Okay.
after that.
Okay.
That was that my senior would have been an under 23 championship,
Okay.
some race in Europe that they were
Uh-huh.
training for. So.
And so after that, did you ended up obviously circling
Well, so
back?
then after I graduated in 1986. I went and trained. I wanted to make the national team,
Hmm.
so I ended up going to Philly, rowed for this Undine Barge Club, which I don't remember at. I made the under 23 team through trials,
Hmm.
um, and then we went to. It was my first international trip. We went to at the time it was Yugoslavia. This is
Mm.
1987. Now it's Croatia, but and I raced in the World University Games in 1987. So that was my first international team. But I
Wow.
went through a trial process. So I was run out of Philly. We went to a trial and we won. So there was nobody that could say you can't go.
Hmm.
Like the national team coach couldn't like
Yeah, yeah,
box
yeah.
me out. So I did that,
You
and
made the
then
cut. You had a certain time. You made it.
yeah, I was like the top guy really in my club.
Hmm.
So I made the boat, but we didn't do that great. It wasn't like it was a good experience, but I realized like I got a lot of work to
Work
do
to do.
because we got killed by the Europeans.
Really.
Well, because they row a different way than in America.
Hmm.
America's all eights and just throw people in and like just train as hard as you can. Over there,
Hmm.
it's like
More team
they don't
building
have
aspect.
rowing teams in high school.
Yeah.
People row for clubs. You know, you go row for a professional club, and you
Mm.
learn how to row from like professional coaches and stuff.
Mm.
It's not like
Different approach.
winging stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally different approach.
Yeah.
So anyway, that kind of led me into. Then I tried to make the 88 team, and I didn't make it, and got me into PT. I had an accident. That I was roofing to make money, and after I didn't make the trials, I had no money left, and I was my girlfriend. I was away training for like 6 weeks, and she was cheating on me. And so when I got back, I'm like, she's cheating on me. I didn't make I didn't make the national. I didn't make
And
the
I have
Olympic
no
team,
money.
and I have no money. So I'm like,
Fuck.
I got to go back to the beach to make some money because
Yeah.
and I'll
And
go
maybe
rate.
get a new girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah, but I raced lifeboat racing my second
Life
in
racing.
1986. I raced in the beach patrol in South Jersey.
Mm.
So
I
I
didn't
think
know they did
I
that.
won some races. I was fourth in the South Jerseys. Oh, it's huge.
Mm.
It's huge.
All the lifeguards
Like
do it.
so, like on the 1988. So I ended up winning the South Jerseys in 1988. That summer when I didn't make when my life fell apart,
Yeah.
and I didn't make the Olympic team, and my girlfriend's cheating on me, and I moved out, and I just went to Cape May. I ended up winning the South Jerseys. That was a huge turning point in my life because now, like in Cape May's history, from 1908 to 1988, nobody had ever won the South Jerseys. No guard had ever won the South Jerseys. It's like the Super Bowl of lifeguard racing.
Uh-huh.
Like there's thousands of people
Nobody from
watching the
Cape
race.
May had
Never
won.
won.
Okay.
No guard had
So that
ever
was a
won. Yeah,
huge
so I
boost
won. I
for your
won the South
confidence.
Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I won, and so like it kind of gave me this like kind of it restored confidence in
Yes.
me. Like I just
Of
was
course.
beat down a little bit
Yep.
mentally.
Yep.
So it was good. It was good. So then I roofed it between 1986 and no, 1985 and 1980. I roofed for a guy that was hooked up with our college, my frat and stuff. So I knew how to roof. So I went back down there and I'm like, I need money. So I knew people down there from my roommate from college.
Mhm.
He was in the roofing business. We
Mhm.
roofed together from 1986 to 1988. So he got me hooked up with a buddy. But then I had a construction accident, fell off a roof.
Oh
I
shit.
I dislocated my shoulder and broke my wrist.
Mm.
It's beginning of June. I'm gonna try to lifeguard race that summer. So now I got a broken arm and it's casted up like this.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, what the hell? Like I just came down here to race. Now I'm like, I'm only there for a week and I already got and the summer didn't even start yet.
Oh man.
So I like a stubborn idiot. I broke the back of my cast.
So you can move it.
Well, yeah, because the captain, I was living in his house. He had a rowing machine. I started
Started
training. I
using
was
it
rowing the first day. I'm
with
like, I
the
broke the cast.
dislocated shoulder.
Yeah, I just started rowing. And then one of the guys on the beach patrol was a physical therapist. So
So you started
he
working
started
together.
rehabbing me. He was rehabbing me so I could get back to race. So like I think in the first 2 weeks I broke the cast. I was rowing every day and I was running on the beach. I was just
Wow.
training. I was trying to I was already in really great shape from the Olympic trials.
But you were determined, yeah.
I wanted to race. So then I went back to go get the fracture. I had a wrist fracture. I wanted to go get checked. I go back to the orthopedics office, and the PA sees me, and he's like, "What happened to your cast?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know what that is."
Cat scratched it. Yeah.
And then he took the cast out, takes an X-ray, and he's like, "All right, we're gonna put another cast on you." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "I'm racing. Like,
Yeah.
you got to figure something else out, like
Yeah.
a soft cast,
Mobile, yeah.
whatever." So he talked to the ortho, and the ortho's like, "Yeah, do whatever." So like I just went back and competed, and then won all these races. So it was a cool summer, and also like that's what like then I was like, you know what, I'm going to use my chemistry degree. I'm going to go to PT school.
Mhm.
So I could go to PT school
So
in
you
this
decided
window.
after that
Yeah,
summer.
so I can get this window. I can get it done and still be ready for the '92 Olympics. So I have enough time to do all this.
Mm.
And so if I go to, I was thinking about medical school, and we're like, if I go to medical school, it's over. I'll
Pushes you
never,
out
no, I'll never be able to do this again.
to row, yeah.
I'll never be able to go to the Olympics
Because that
because
window
that's
would
4 years
close.
of medical
Yes.
school, then 4 or 5 years of
Residency.
residency. Like I'm done. So like I'm like I can always go back to medical school if I really want to, but I want to try to make the Olympic team. That was
So
my
between
goal.
89 and 92, you
I
went
just
to PT
crushed it.
school?
I did a year. I had to take a year of classes, as you know.
Yeah.
I was a chemistry major at Rutgers.
So you
I
didn't
had to
have the
get.
prereqs,
I
yeah.
did 33 credits. I
Yeah.
had all the chemistry and all that crap. I just didn't have the
Natural
kinesiology,
sciences,
anatomy, and
yeah.
all that stuff. So I was taking that while I was working 3 jobs, just to like get through to get to the next
Be able
one.
to apply to PT school, yeah.
Yeah, so I applied, I got in,
Uh-huh.
and then I just had to finish the class out,
Mhm.
and then I competed again. So that summer, I think '89, I went to Germany. I got made another under 23 team.
Mm.
Like, so I did a year of class to get ready for
Mhm.
Columbia, which I was starting in the fall '89. I made another senior B team, an under 23 team.
Uh-huh.
Um, well, at the time it was under university team. It wasn't under 23. You just had to be a student.
Okay.
You know.
And then you ended up graduating from Columbia, and then you went to.
Then I made yeah. So then in 1990, I did the trials in a single.
Hmm.
So between my first year and second year, I won the trials
Uh-huh.
in the United
By
States,
yourself, single.
single, beat
Wow.
everybody, and the same coach that blackballed me back then. Right after I got done with the
Was
race, I win. I
coddling you.
win. No, I win the championships. He goes, "You're not going to world championships," and he walked away. So,
Everybody needs a good hater.
so I,
Everybody
so
needs a good
I,
hater.
so I won. I won the trials. I beat everybody in the United States. I
Nice.
win the single.
And he's got the
He
nerve to
comes
tell
right up to
you.
me. I'm literally getting off the dock.
What a sad old
I didn't
bastard.
even have the boat on a rack yet. I just was walking up the dock off the thing.
Miserable son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So 92 comes around, right? You go to the Olympics.
Yeah. So 91. Then we got this. They hired this Russian coach, Ukrainian coach, who was actually, at the time was still Russia. He left Russia to come to teach the sculling team.
Mm-hmm.
So the other coach was the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He hired this Russian coach who didn't know anything about me. The Russian coach, all he knows, I won the singles. I was the fastest guy in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So now I had somebody that didn't.
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't he?
Yeah,
I was the fastest guy
exactly.
in the single. So
Exactly.
I ended up making I graduated in May of '91. I made my first senior team a month later, '91.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to World Championships in Vienna, Austria.
Wow.
Because I was the best single sculler, which now I wasn't. He had no bias. He didn't know. He could barely speak English, so there was no way that the head coach could pollute his mind with like all this crap. So
all
so
you
that
could see
saved
was
me.
what was in front
Yeah,
of him.
right. So like it worked out.
Couldn't
So
deny it.
yeah, and then we did well. We made the finals. Sculling boat hadn't made the finals at Worlds in like forever, so it was like a huge thing for sculling guys to make. Like eights and fours would win medals for the U.S.
It's a sculling boat.
2 blades.
Okay.
The sculler's like a single. I can row by myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And a sweep boat, I can, like a pair, I have to have a port and a starboard.
Mm-hmm.
2 rowers, 1 oar each.
Mm.
So college rowing is sweep rowing. Like you have 1 blade.
So that was the first time that had ever happened.
No, I mean it had been a long, long time. Like sculling in the United States was horrible. We were laughable. Like in Europe, that's how they learn how to row. They don't do.
Everybody's got 2 of them.
Yeah, they'll learn sculling because they don't have schools. Here it's like race the hell out of people. Don't care about technique. It's like survival of the fittest. The American system is completely different. The Europeans are like they teach you how to row when you're little in the scull. You learn how to learn technique and how. So we got killed by them. When I went in '87 in the quad, I went in a 4-man boat. We were just slow as dirt.
Mm-hmm.
We won the U.S. trials, but compared to the Europeans who sculled they started sculling from day one. They were just way better than us. But then we went and we were 5th in the world, though, so that was awesome.
5th in the world in what year?
I mean, that was in 1991. That was my first senior team.
Yeah.
Then I trained for the Olympic cycle and won the quad in the next year too. So anyway,
you won in the quad.
We didn't win. I mean, I went to the Barcelona Olympics.
Okay.
We finished 8th in the Olympics, but it was a good experience, overall, just to like
be there,
break that all that toxicity that I had from 85 to
a fresh start.
Yeah, it was like just starting over.
Yeah, exactly. So then take me through after 92, after 91, right? You said that was Barcelona, 92.
Yeah, so like I was a PT now. I started working. I was just trying to figure out where, like 91, 92 was a pretty good experience, going to my first Olympic Games. It wasn't as good as, I would have liked to been at least in the medal contention, but
you were there.
It was there. It was brutal training. I mean, that was the hardest training I ever did. The Russian coach they're insane.
I bet.
Well, because, we're not getting drugs pumped into us every day by some other staff that the coach knows nothing about. We're like have no money. I'm like just trying to survive, and it was insane.
And they're all
if I showed you the training programs, it was absolutely mind-boggling how much training we did.
Every single day.
Anything you see now, it's pedestrian training. Yeah. It was insane. So, and I was a PT, and then the injuries started showing up. There's a lot of injuries. So that's
on your team for yourself.
Oh yeah, no, me. I had one injury, but it was a rhomboid strain.
Okay.
I mean, it was kind of, this is what you're dealing with. Like, I get this rhomboid strain. I just finished school, and I'd done my last internship. I think I worked at Roxborough Memorial Hospital in Philly, and we're training in Occoquan, Virginia. We're doing these ridiculous weight training programs, like 1,500 reps in a workout of lifting with weights that are like 60, 70% of your max. times 1,500 reps,
That sounds
3 times a week.
that sounds like a
And
bad
then you had to
idea to me.
row. That was just the weight train. Then you had to row like 12 workouts a week. So I got this bad Rambo train. And I'm like, in broken English to him, or broken what he
For
can't
him,
interpret. I'm
yeah.
like, I'm going back to Philly for 3 days
Broken
because we
comprehension.
had no stat, we had no training. We were like by ourselves. We had a Ukrainian and Russian coach who could barely speak English coaching us, and we had no support.
Yeah,
We had no USLC support. We had nothing.
yeah.
So like, I'm going to get treatment. I'm going to go back to Roxborough and get treatment. And he was like,
Take this vodka.
no, he's like, no, no. He goes, oh no, I give you a special shot in your
Yeah, of
back.
course.
I'm like, what? I said, you're a coach. You're not a medical doctor. You're not going to inject anything
He's
into
like, I'm
me.
everything.
Yeah, it's like, so I went and got fixed and came back. And then, it was a learning curve, but I also was starting to see, like, we have all these training programs but there's all these injuries. There's something we're not doing right. And
Hmm.
that kind of got me on this Common Core venture started back then, really. It was just like questioning, like
Training methods.
from 91 to 2000. Then I was doing a lot of stuff with the USOC. Jay Kearney was the head US physiologist. We had he was head strength coach at USOC. Well, the world known strength coach. I'm like, they're questioning our training programs,
Hmm.
to us.
Hmm.
He's looking at what Igor had us doing. I'm like, we got to do it, otherwise we're not going to make the team.
What was the
We're
last name?
forced to do it.
Igor what?
Grinko.
Renko.
Yeah. He was an awesome guy, don't
Right.
get me wrong, but he was taking like Russian training methods to the United States, and we didn't have all the other crap that they were
The
using.
build up, yeah.
Well, the drugs they were
The
probably
accessories,
using,
yeah.
yeah, they were using
That
all
made it
kinds of stuff.
possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, even the yeah. Anyway,
So
so
his program started getting questioned.
I was questioning it because I saw the injuries. Like
Yeah.
some of my teammates can't even row. Like, how
Right.
are we going to race in Europe if we don't have we're doing these
Full team.
crazy training programs and people are getting all kinds of back problems or tendonitis problems or because we're doing insane training and then I didn't get any faster on the erg.
Hmm.
Like 9 months of doing this crazy
Numbers don't
training.
lie, yeah.
I was like, I didn't get any faster. Why are we doing all this?
Yeah.
There's got to be a better way.
So then how much longer was he your coach?
Well, so then that was 91, 92. I was like, done. I'd already met my wife and she was up in Philly. So like, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going back to Occoquan, Virginia for 93.
Hmm.
So I stayed in Philly and rode for my old club
Hmm.
and coach. And we ended up, I won my first World Cup medal in 93
Wow.
in Lucerne Regatta. And it was in a sculling event. Again, that was the first World Cup medal forever in the United States at that
Wow.
time. Like, I couldn't remember if there was one previous to that.
Wow.
So we actually had a really fast boat. And then we
Hmm.
made finals at Worlds. And outside of my teammate catching a crab in the middle of a race, we would have won a medal if he hadn't. It
Damn.
was that close. We were like, you
Neck
know,
and neck.
yeah, it was like third, fourth, and fifth are like 6 feet apart, But
Damn.
if he hadn't caught his blade on one stroke, that basically cost us a medal.
Really?
And he was also a lot older. He was like, at the time, I think he was 37. So I'm like,
Caught a crab. That's like,
his blade caught in the water in the middle of
yeah.
our finals. We're in racing.
Yeah.
You can't mess with one stroke.
Wow. Fucked everything up.
So anyway, yeah. So we still finished fifth in the world, but which was for the sculling boat was it was
Hmm.
great.
But you weren't satisfied, yeah.
No, I wanted to
Yeah.
win. I
Yeah.
I didn't want to come in fifth.
Yeah. Who does? Yeah.
So yeah. So then I that coach who was my best coach I ever had technically. He only did it 1 year. He was burnt out, and he's like, I don't want to. I'm not coaching next year.
What was his name?
Lyons Bradley. So he coached me. He was a Philly. He was a undying coach for a long time. He was
Hmm.
great technical coach.
Hmm.
He made us super fast. But then he just after 93, he's like, I'm not doing this again. I was like, great. Now I don't have a coach. These guys are awesome, So I can either go back. So like I decided to go back to train with Igor for these camps for '94.
Hmm.
But I wanted to get another doubles partner. I wanted a young guy
Hmm.
because my partner, we were fifth in the world, but he's 37, and he'll be 40 at the Olympics, and he didn't have a great erg score. He
Right.
wasn't a strong guy.
Right.
I was like
You wanted
20.
someone
I
younger,
was
yeah.
way stronger than I was one of the strongest guys in the country, really.
Yeah.
Erg time. So I'm like, there's no way he's going to be 3 years older, and he's already really slow on the erg. He's a good technical rower, but like, how are we going to win?
Hmm.
I just had to be like realistic. I'm like,
Yeah.
he was a great guy, but I'm like,
Look for someone
yeah,
else.
I need somebody who's got horsepower
Yeah.
so we can win a gold medal.
Yeah.
So anyway, that just kind of.
Did you find that guy eventually?
No, so like that, then I was back with Igor, so
Hmm.
I agreed to go to this camp, but I was working as a PT. I'm like, look, I'll take the time off. It's a 3-week altitude training camp, in Eagle Nest, New Mexico. But I said, oh, it was a 2-day regatta in Duisburg, Germany. It was like race on Saturday and then a completely different race on Sunday. I'm like, I want to row a double. I'll row on a double on Saturday with Dave, the guy I finished fifth in the worlds, and then on Sunday I want to row with this guy Jason. So we'll row the double both days so I can compare.
Yeah. What ended up happening?
So we rode this David on Saturday. He never signed me up for the double on Sunday. He put me in the quad. So he lied to me. So I spent all that time and money to go to this camp,
No.
and he never signed me up. So like, I don't want to row quad with you again. I already did this 2 times.
Yeah. Oh fuck.
So I basically quit rowing.
Wow.
I was like
After
done.
that.
Yeah, I was like forget it. So it was like whatever. End of April. I think it was like June. Kim and I were at the beach in Cape May,
Mm-hmm.
and sit on the beach, and she's like, you need to call Mike Spracklen up, who was the men's eight coach. So the men's eight won a bronze medal in '93 in the eight,
Mm-hmm.
which was the first medal that had been won since like '87. So it was like 7 years between medals. So I'm like, and Kim's just, I'm driving her nuts because like I'm still working out, but I'm not rowing. I'm like, I'm done rowing. I had enough of this. And she made me, so I'm on the beach. I get on the phone, I call him. They're in California training in San Diego. I call Spracklen up. He knew who I was, right? Because he was a British coach for a long time, and then he was hired by America to be the men's eight coach. And he goes, yeah, because I was in the finals of the world, so he was pretty impressed with that. And he's like, yeah, you can come out. He said you have 10 days to win the pair, and then I'll put you in the boat, and then we're going off to race at the Henley Regatta.
10 days.
So I had 10 days. So
Plenty of time.
I never rode a pair before in my life. Pair was one. Wait, I only rode double. Like a double, I
Mm-hmm.
was good in small boats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, I'll
First
come.
time with a single war,
I
pretty
never
much.
rode a pair before in my life,
Wow.
right? So I got to go right now. I got to race and beat guys that are trying to make this eight.
Wow.
So I flew out. to San Diego and I won.
Wow.
In 10 days, I won. So then I was going to the Henley Regatta. Like I've only been rowing in sweep for 10 days, and we're getting on a plane to go to race at the most prestigious race in the
That's
men's
insane.
eight.
10 days.
Yeah, so like
People train 10 years. You got 10 days.
well, like so so I rode eights in college, so
Yeah.
I hadn't rode in eights in a bunch of years because I was sculling, but
Mm-hmm.
that was a lot easier. It was just to win it, so it was a fun trip. So then
Wow.
we're going to Henley. I've never raced in a like that's like premier race. That's like the Kentucky Derby
Yeah.
of
Rowing.
rowing, right? Like the super, like the elite stuff.
So how'd you guys do with that?
We won.
Won.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I had struggled because I was running in a double so much slower boat and boat moving speed. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to eight. You're rolling like way faster, much more intensity. So I was like holding on for dear life.
Technically different. Yeah.
Yeah, just to catch up to the speed of the
Yeah.
boats and stuff. It took me a little while.
Huh. That's interesting.
So
So that was in '94.
that was '94.
94.
And then we won the worlds in '94. We won Henley Regatta, and then we won the worlds. So that
Wow.
was the first worlds title, since '87.
Uh-huh.
So
And then '96 Olympics. Did you go back?
yeah, we went back, but that's a whole nother story. That
No.
coach loses. These coaches lose their minds when they go into the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
They start trying to pull in bigger ergs with guys that can't row.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a whole nother story.
So that went sideways.
So anyway, that was kind of like that.
The start.
That's when I started to I was working as a PT. I was training at high level, super high level.
Mm-hmm.
I would question the physiologist. I would talk to Jay Kearney at the time a lot, and just trying to figure things out.
Yeah, things weren't making sense to you.
Yeah, I was just wondering why, we're doing all this training and there's still so many injuries. Like what,
Uh-huh.
this isn't working. The training, the weights we're doing, it doesn't work
Right.
from, we still have all these
So that's
injuries.
kind of how the philosophy started. You started kind of doing things,
Yeah, I
working
started
things
asking-
out in your own brain,
Yeah.
kind of trying to figure out the best ways to achieve the highest performance. Right?
Yep.
Essentially stemmed from your participation in rowing. Perfect segue. So obviously the Kaehler Core training, I'm familiar with it. I was lucky enough to work with you guys, figure out how to use the machine, while I was at Ivy. Give me like an elevator pitch. Kaehler Core training, what's it about? How does it specifically apply to spinal rehab?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Like, human movement, like the way nature designed movement, right? So nature had to make a decision when it created humans and animals, right? So it's like nature's model is a gross mobility model, right? So like
Yes.
you have to give the human body the most options for
Degrees of
movement to
freedom, yeah.
survive, so they don't get killed and they can expand the population.
Yes.
That's nature's model, in my opinion, of what
Yes.
for all species, right? So make as many as you can and get them to survive and continue to expand the
Mhm.
population. So in that model, we have to do lots of spine movement, right? That model is spine moves with extremities. That's what nature gave us. works. People do it all the time, but then residue and problems start to show up. It's not that you're not going to continue to do moving spine in your life. You have to, but I was trying to figure out a way to add a new tool to movement, which is really learning how to control that system, and then you're going to still move it when you do other things. You're not going to ever get rid of the moving spine model. You just want to learn this other model, this other tool to add on to what you have.
Right. Just
So
another
the less
tool
you
in the
move
toolbox.
this, the less chance you have it wearing out and getting injured. So moving spine model is what creates your back problems, right?
Right.
It just does. The more you move it out of its anatomical position, the more chance you have of getting hurt. And that's okay if you want to do that, but it's not the only tool you need.
Right. So let me play devil's advocate for a minute and say, you said, you know, the more you move it out of the anatomical position, what if, you know, in relationship to what? Because the anatomical position, right, is one thing, but when we talk about like neutral spine, I'm trying to teach people like, you know, how to engage their core and keep your spine in optimal positions for certain movements.
But they don't know what that is, though.
Exactly. So how do you explain that to somebody that has no?
By feeling.
Yeah. Try to target the right muscle groups.
No, so it's because you haven't been through all these. I've done thousands of evaluations. You have somebody move the way they currently move, so they let their spines do micro breaks with their extremities. That's normal movement, right? We can't stop that from happening, but they get a certain feeling when they move that way.
Yeah.
So if I do a bridge, for example, and I'm letting my spine move the way it always has my whole life, I'm gonna have a certain feeling in extremity muscles. So that's your map for that system. Then I can teach them quickly how to like start to stabilize that system so it doesn't move, and they're gonna get a totally different muscle experience. They're gonna feel the difference between when it moves and when it doesn't.
Exactly. And I've tried to follow that kind of blueprint.
It takes
and when
a lot
people
of
like when you get them to shift the work to the hamstrings, they really feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just adding another toolbox to movement. They're always going to move their spine, and you're never going to not. They're not going to not move it for a lot of things. You have to do movement. There's no way to measure that anyway.
Exactly.
No matter what anybody says, it's like even your guy, like
David
whatever. You're going to move your spine. So what? It's great, but it doesn't mean you have to do it all the time. And the better you get at it, because I've solved thousands of people's problems doing this Kaehler Core system.
Yeah.
I know the results,
Exactly.
and I have all the data collected, so I know what A and B are, and I just try to get people to learn more about B.
Right.
However far they want to go with it, that's up to them.
You've seen it work.
Absolutely. I have all the data. So I'm not saying it's not one against the other. You put them together.
Yeah, it's all on a spectrum, right?
Together,
you got to find the happy medium.
And again, there's no way to measure. You'd have to have micrometers on your transverse process to see that it wasn't moving. It's impossible to do that, right?
Exactly.
And nobody can do it anyway. However, the results show up. People get better. Their back pain goes away. You know, so anyway, that's really the Kaehler Core process was a self-discovery thing based on courses I'd taken. Like in 97, 98, I took all the Shirley Sharman's courses. I took Gray Cook's FMS when he first came out with it.
Functional movement.
Yeah, so I took it, but I'm like, but how do we make the change?
Results, yeah, exactly.
That's just testing and like
knowing the procedure, knowing the technicalities is one thing. Applying them and getting real results.
Or starting to teach people how to understand this new feeling in their body so they can learn this new movement map, right? So they can get rid of this residue that they currently have from the moving spine model.
Right.
It created the residue problems, all the imbalances. That comes from back's overworking, somebody's getting off the hook, right?
Right.
And that's really what residue comes from. So anyway, that's really what the process came from.
So how do you differentiate between like a structural issue versus movement dysfunction? Because that's essentially like, that's a big part of not necessarily diagnosing, but figuring out the plan, like the plan of care. When you go about evaluating someone comes in with back pain, right, lumbar injury. What's your thought process like? Like, how do I get to the root of what is causing this painful response? Is it a movement dysfunction? Is it a structural issue?
Well, I make the assumption that it's already a movement dysfunction because that's how they got in trouble. Just poor movement.
Right.
Overuse their
Unless
spine.
there's an acute traumatic injury, like most of the time you can assume it's a movement dysfunction.
Yeah, I know it is. Even when you have a herniated disc, it's because you've been moving your back too much out of it. You've been putting it at extreme positions, right? So at some point it's going to break.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't mean you can't do a lot of it for a long time. People do that all the time.
Yeah, right.
It's just like, do you need to keep doing that?
Right.
Or do you need to change direction?
Yeah.
So that the models that were taught when I was at school is like, you have back injury, you're just going to move the other way.
Yeah.
So you're going to use the same operating system that caused the injury to correct it.
But the reverse,
right?
Yeah.
I'm like, how does that make
principle, flexion principle?
To me, that's a definition of insanity.
Yeah.
You're gonna take a poor movement skill and teach them how to move the other way, and then they might get better for a little while, but then they're gonna come back because
it could be just as poor of a movement skill. It's just the opposite.
The other way. So then people come back a year or 2 years later. Because I've been doing this for 33 years. I've interviewed, I don't know, 15,000 patients. I don't even know how many I've seen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like you hear that too. Like, yeah, I did it for a while, and then I came back and I got hurt some other way. I'm like, yeah, because we're doing the same operating
Following the
system
same
that causes the injury in the first place to
faulty
do it.
operating system.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not saying faulty. I'm just saying they needed a new skill that they
Yes.
didn't have.
Yeah.
And the Kaehler Core system starts to teach them a new movement skill. That's all. So they can start to get better at this
More
other
tools
skill.
in their toolbox. Yeah.
Right. So now they can do more of this. Like, do you need to move your back that much to live your life? Not really.
And people use sports all the time as an excuse for that. Like you see online, like I see a ton of people like, oh, look at the wrestler's spine in this position as he's doing a double leg. It's like, well, those wrestlers end up having tons of problems later on, and then they use that as an argument. Well, you know, like you said, nature's model, we were designed to have the ability to enter these positions. So why not, you know, do this full throttle to the max all the time because it's available. And
right,
it's
no,
like,
so right. So you can decide to do that. Like wrestling, you're gonna have to move your spinal out. There's no way around it.
exactly.
Like, and I'm not gonna say that
baseball or any other sport.
But you could add this in, and then your injury risk goes down when you do those extreme movements, right? So again, your body's your own tool. Enjoy your life. Do whatever you want. I just giving people an added tool so they can get more longevity out of it and really cut the risk of getting injured down and correct all their imbalances. So when I retest somebody, once they start the Kaehler Core process, all those deficits start to go away quick. All that residue starts to disappear. Now you have a much more powerful body. You might still have to move your spine, but I'm giving you this. Now, I want to train more of my time and not move my spine. The more I do that, the more I can do things when I have to move my spine with much more assurance and much more insurance that I'm not going to get hurt. Right? So, like, I'm never going to stop the spine from not moving completely. It's impossible. I don't pretend to know that. I know I can't do it, but I can get them way better. And then the strength comes back in these muscles that were underutilized because the back was doing work for those extremity muscles. Back was overworking.
And the most commonly underutilized muscles, right, are.
I mean, typically what I see, so the hip flexors, true hip flexors. Again, you have to go through hands-on stuff to understand what I'm talking about. Inside hamstrings, the leg flexor system gets underutilized with the spine moving model. You know, so you're going to use other muscles to make the leg flexion happen. It's just not the ones we want. And so that's just
people get tons of hamstring tears that way. And
hamstring tears. Well, that's because the muscles are actually weaker than they should be because the back's moving with the extremities, right? So it's actually a weak. It's like you standing on one foot and me saying, "Try to stop me from pushing you over." And you sway your back all over the place, and you're stopping me from pushing you over. That's the moving spine model. You can do a lot, and you can stand up and do all kinds of stuff, but
legs are still going to be weak.
The Kaehler Core model, I'm putting your feet in a really wide stance, and then I try to push you over from the side, and I can't move you. So I'd rather have both foundations.
Go like this.
I got a bug there. Yeah, so it's like I would say it's like it's like a tightrope walker, you know. Does a tightrope walker go like this?
Versus railroad tracks.
Or they have like a long pole there to keep their spine absolutely stable, so they can make their legs do all the strengthening. That's how they get really good, right? So they're not doing this. They're not on the Bosu ball swaying around. Or they'd be dead. They'd fall off the thing, right? So you can have both models. You just need to understand what the second model is, and I don't think most people understand.
And utilize them when it's most favorable.
Right.
So you're going to have times where you need that model.
Right. Sure. Of course. Right. You need both models.
Running with tigers, hunting.
Right. I want to get better at this other model to give you even more assurance, and injury risk is significantly reduced. So that's really what the Kaehler Core process is, adding a toolbox to gross mobility model. We're going to gross control model, right?
It makes
Nietzsche's is a gross mobility model. This is a gross control model. They can work together. You just have to understand what the other one is, and that's what I teach. Like, I can teach people to start to understand what this other movement model is better because they feel it. It's a feeling process.
Right.
They understand which muscle is supposed to activate. They're all activating, but you'll notice it where you're weak.
Yes. Like you said, it's a feeling model. Like once you feel the right movement patterns, you start to understand how weird the other ones were.
Well, but also you have to look at the spine, for example. Like in the hands and the feet and the mouth, we have so many perceptive fields, right? And so, when you look at homunculus, that's why they're all like big. The spine, the only time you know what your spine's doing is when you injured it. Right?
You're hypersensitive, hypervigilant.
You can't tell when it's moving or not.
That's true.
Without a tertiary system. That's what the Kaehler Core system does. If I get you to stop moving your back, you're going to feel muscle activation in different spots. So now I can teach you how to start to control your spine
by
feeling these other muscles
Yeah,
working,
scaffolding
right?
essentially,
So now
literally.
you're building this new map.
Yeah.
It's a feeling map that's telling you it's a step removed from direct perception.
Mm-hmm.
We're using the muscles and other extremities to
Right.
tell us when the spine is in better control. That's all
Mm-hmm.
it does, right?
Yeah, that makes perfect
Right.
sense.
So now we can actually start to teach somebody a new map without having pain as a coach, which we can use too. When
Mm.
somebody's injured, I can use the Kaehler Core system. Like when you stop moving it, all of a sudden your back pain went away, didn't it? Now you're engaging the leg muscles back, and so now the back pain is going away because you're not moving your back now.
Pain's not the coach. Yeah,
You know,
the machine is
when
the
somebody
coach.
has pain, you can use it as your coach too.
Right.
And we also use feeling, the muscle feeling. We use
Yeah.
both in that case. Somebody
Yeah.
doesn't have an injured back, I have to use feel. I can only use muscle experience feelings to teach them this new movement map. So their brain's starting to figure out what it feels like when the spine's not helping the legs move or
Exactly.
arms move.
And most people don't know what that
They have
feels
no
like.
idea what it is. They've
Yeah.
never done it before in their life.
Exactly.
That's why. And then the calm guided force also
Mm-hmm.
starts to teach you how to load the spine
Mm-hmm.
vertically,
Together. Yeah.
up and down.
Yeah.
Right. If I do a bridge, it's all horizontal shearing only. Now, when I do a bridge with a Kaehler Core machine, I got horizontal and vertical forces going
Yeah.
through the body. So I can it's giving you more mapping tools
Multiple planes of
to
motion,
figure out what you need
multiple
to
axes.
feel to teach your brain what it feels like when the back is now not helping the arms and legs move. It's
Mm-hmm.
in its optimal position. Nature made it that position. I didn't make it there.
Right.
And now we move the arms and legs around that without the back helping move.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna do both,
So
but
that
I
optimal
want
position is it's different for everybody, right?
well, yeah. So you have an ideal. Again, this is
Getting into the weeds, yeah.
this
We're
is going to
missing the
take a
forest
long
for the
time.
trees,
Yeah. So
yeah.
like people are taken out of their ideal position by tight hip flexors. This is weak. That's tight. They don't even know what it
Office
is.
chairs work.
They're so far out of it. So
Yeah.
like and I work through those things. And this is where you need a lot of experience doing it. Like I change their position a little bit, and then we get more engagement in the hamstrings.
Yeah.
This is where we need to work you back to. You're so far removed from your ideal position. You don't even know where. You don't have
It's
no idea
almost
what
like
it is.
producing a song. You play with a few little dials, and then the
Right.
symphony of the body kind of works together.
Right. So it's kind of like this. It's art, really, more than
Exactly.
anything, right? So and it's teaching people quickly how to learn this new experience and start to practice it.
Right.
And you practice it and start to get better at it because this is going to take a while to really figure out.
Yeah. So the name Kaehler Core philosophy, like in your words, how do you define core functionally? Like, what's the role of the core in this process?
It's an excellent question. So there's two types of core, in my opinion. There's moving spine core, where the spine does most of the work. So you look at people do like rotational exercise, what you would call Russian twist, whatever. That's basically a lot of moving spine work with a side of abs. It's
like
mostly internal turning, and then you get a little ab work. Those people that have ripped abs have ripped abs where they did nothing. They don't even have to exercise. They have ripped abs. People get this illusion. People get an illusion about what muscles look like. Yeah, it's nonsense. So so that's really, you have moving spine core work and you have non-moving spine core work.
Yeah.
They're completely different things.
So then define that one for me. Yeah.
This is where the spine you have because your back's a moving model, right? So the gross mobility body, you've been training your back as a moving system your whole life. It's really strong as a moving system for all human beings, right? So that is already 100 foot-pounds of force. When you say the back paraspinal muscles and all the transverse things that are moving your back all the time, they're ridiculously strong as a moving system. I got 100 foot-pounds on this side, and I got 10 on my abdominal system, 100 on the back, 10 in front. I'm moving my back all day long.
Right.
I need them both to be 100 if I really want to start to learn how to capture a non-moving spine model. That takes skill and practice. Not moving your back to make what you would call core work, like sit up, roll.
Right.
That's spinal flexion and rotation with a side of abs. Little ab work, right?
So you want the main course being
stability stuff, right? Can you move your arms and legs without your spine helping?
Yes.
Can you do that? That's a real skill. That takes practice and a lot of work. That's why the Kaehler Core stuff, when you get somebody on knees to elbow, if I had you try to do like how much force I can do, they couldn't even move their legs at all because they don't know how to control that yet. They have no idea. They could roll their back up and you could put a lot of weight on them and they'd be strong that way. But that's moving their spine. No, you're just reinforcing what you've always done. So that's what all people do training wise. So all those guys who do all this crazy stuff, they're going to do a lot of that because that's what they need to do.
Yes.
But they're not spending much time
Their
or any
success
time.
happens in spite of that movement.
Well, because everybody else is doing the same thing. So they're on a level playing field. I've had athletes that start doing this too, and then they jump. Their performance jumps dramatically.
In all sports, right? Not just rowing.
All sports. and then they'll reach a plateau, but because you give them this new toolbox.
Right.
They've been training their back as a crazy mover their whole life, like
Right.
everybody else has been.
Right.
If you don't get hurt, more
Why
power to
stop?
you.
Exactly.
Yeah, they'll keep doing it
But
until
that's
they
what
get
they.
hurt, right? So
Yeah.
it's not
Exactly.
really, that's not a good way to measure stuff. Does that
Right.
make sense? So,
Yeah.
so when we add this other tool, then all of a sudden I have all the data. We get huge jumps in performance in 8-10 weeks, like just by starting to learn this new tool,
Mm-hmm.
how to start to control their spine when
Mm-hmm.
they're moving their arms and legs.
Now, who still uses that? I'm sure tons of rowing
You
teams
can. The
and
coaches are really. It's hard because they have to go through the process themselves.
yeah,
Like you have to
they don't have the
convince.
patience or the
Yeah,
time to
exactly. And then
willing
they
to
get
learn.
overwhelmed with so many coaches. So
Yeah.
really, I've got to the point where it's more targeted people that I'm spending time with. I'd like to get more people to do it. My biggest obstacle is getting people on the machine and understanding the feeling process.
Yeah.
Because I can't in a video and in a copy. I could write copy. I can't make somebody feel it.
Yeah.
It's impossible, right?
It's more of a hands-on thing. You got to be there
Yeah,
teaching
so
them.
like, yeah, like I would like in what ideal world, I'd have like clinics, training places where people come and do, like, instead of doing like Pilates machines or whatever, you just do column core
Yeah.
machines, right?
Yeah.
Have people come in and train and then do some other exercises and then just starting to build this
Right.
new, you know, this new spine control system that they weren't aware of
Right.
before.
So what's your ideal build out look like in terms of like teaching that model? Is it more of a group class setting where everybody has their own machine, or is it more of a partner, an intimate, you know, 4 people that you can teach and really pay attention to at once? Like long term, if you give me like 5-10 year plan where you really see the development of this philosophy, Scott, like come to fruition, like what does that look like for you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's more like the reason I came back to PT and especially with Mike is like getting other people to learn the process and
Yeah,
start to use it
being
and
open to it,
understand it, right?
open to learning.
And then try to spread that in whatever way I can. I don't know what
Okay.
the best way is.
Yeah.
I mean, the PT realm's been a lot of resistance because it's tied in research and data, and the problem with the research and data is all the spine research that's done out there is every person they're looking at is all moving spine model.
Yeah.
They've never compared somebody
To a
from A to
column
B.
core
So
break.
to
Yeah.
me, those are all case studies. They call it research. To me, it's case studies.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah.
just you're having all
You're
the
interested
people.
in having a real comparison
Yeah, I mean,
group,
you have to really do it. Like
a
I could teach.
control,
Yeah,
and then that way you can compare the best
right.
model.
So and I can't do that myself, but
Right.
that's really the sticking point is that market is too hard to overcome.
Infiltrate. Yeah.
Yeah, they're so infatuated with the
I
research
think.
that's out there, right?
Yeah.
Which is all, to me, it's all case studies. They
Yeah.
can argue it's studies, but I'm like, yeah, every person that studies doing moving spine model. So you're comparing everybody
Right.
to themselves.
But I think in the next few years, this is really people are gonna be open to this because people are looking for better ways to perform. Like human performance it kind of reached a plateau at certain points, 90s, early thousands, and then like recently, I feel like we've kind of really hit another big stride with like people being open to exploring different movement methods. And
Yeah.
so, um, anytime you get coaches and athletes willing to try new shit to break records and to, surpass you know previous plateaus, people are going to be open to trying this, whether it works for them immediately or not.
Yeah.
But
So,
that's going to spread that kind of
yeah, we're trying to
message.
do it like now where, Mike and I are just trying to collect other data from Dorsey V people,
Yeah,
compare ours to theirs. Because
yeah.
I know they're doing all moving spine
Because
stuff. We're
people like
not, right?
you need objective
And,
data.
and, and we're getting, even the Dorsey V people are like, hey, these athletes, how are they getting these scores so high so fast?
Yeah, it's
It's not
amazing.
just the
Yeah,
exercises; it's the Kaehler Core system
yeah.
that stacks onto the exercise because
Hmm.
everybody's doing those exercises.
This is the thesis. Someone has to write a good, you know, PhD thesis on the comparison between the
Yeah,
Common Core model, and the moving spine model. Because there's so much data. Like just thinking about what you're saying, Dorsa V, you could do a bunch of types of, movement screening, like
right. Just
objectively
looking at
validated
yeah,
data pattern. Like there's just so much to explore there. I think
there's a
it's going to
ton.
be done eventually.
It's yeah. I mean,
It's a matter of time.
maybe not my lifetime, but
I
like
think so.
the thing is, it's I because I've been doing this for 50 something years. This is what I do.
Yeah,
Like I know human
you
performance
see it.
at a different level. Yeah, and I know what works and doesn't. Like
Yeah,
I don't want to waste time.
oh, shit.
And so
Literally.
and in a traditional PT clinic, you're not gonna, it's like you have totally so many different
People aren't
patients.
open to it.
Not always, no, but a lot. When I work with people, they're like, "Oh my god, this is like great. I'm
But I
totally
mean,
better."
like established, like if I brought this idea, and I was thinking about it, right? I didn't want to be that like, young kid that his first job outside of school. What time do you have to be out of here?
I get like maybe 10 minutes.
Okay. I knew if I brought that machine out in my first clinic,
Oh yeah,
I'd be hit with immediate
totally,
resistance.
total resistance.
They'd be
No,
like, "What the fuck is
yeah,
this? Get out of here! You don't know what you're doing. Why do you think you can teach other people something new that
right,
I'm not even sure you know what you're doing? You just graduated." So like
right.
that was a process. I thought
No,
I had in the back of my mind, like I want to use this with my people because I know it can work. But what's my clinical director going to think? What's my boss going to tell my regional director?
right.
And then there's all this background noise, like fuck, like I know that I can put this into motion, literally, and have success with this, but the resistance you've been dealing
I
with
know,
your
I
whole
understand.
life.
I know,
So
I understand all that stuff. So
yeah,
I'm not like that's why I was Mike was a good option for me
yeah,
because
because he's open to
I
it.
only had it in the rowing teams and rowing my personal
Right,
customers. I didn't have it, you know, and I've sold a bunch of the machines, and I don't try to sell them.
right.
Patients use them for 2-3 months. They're like, "Can I get one?" I'm like,
Yeah,
"Absolutely,"
yeah,
because I know you know how to use it and you
yeah.
know what it's doing for your life. That's why you want to buy one, right? Right,
Exhibit
same for
A.
you, right? And it's just it's an exploration process. I would love to teach more and more people how to do it
Yeah,
and get more people like even like you know this high rocks,
high
whatever.
rocks. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you could build this around anything,
yeah.
any sport,
Exactly.
and make an exceptional change in your performance in your
That's
life,
true. Huh?
and really preserving your spine for the rest of your life, so you're
Yeah,
not
that's what it's
smashing it to
about.
pieces
That's what it's about.
because that wears out, right?
Is being able to do the most amount of shit for the longest amount of time.
Exactly. That's my
Yeah,
whole philosophy.
yeah,
Is yeah, you have to move your spine sometimes, but I don't need to move it most of the
yeah.
times. I don't. Even when I run, my spine,
Mhm.
none of that
Try
stuff
to
ever hurts.
stabilize first. Yeah,
I know it's stable. I don't even have to do it anymore because I've been
yeah,
doing this for so long.
yeah.
But there's other people that aren't. So that's why I know
That's why it's
what.
interesting. Like listening to guys like David Weck. He's like, his philosophy is like the head over foot, like coiling the
It's
spine.
fine. So he's using nature's model. He's using a
Right,
gross mobility model, and that
right,
doesn't. You could do a crap load with
right.
that, right?
It's
I've
just
witnessed it all.
what's the goal? Is
Long-term
it?
goal is not going to be as good.
Yeah.
I can. There's the older I get, the less I know. That I know for sure.
Uh huh.
You're going to wear your discs out.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're doing. If you want to do that, it's your body. Do whatever you
Uh
want.
huh.
But if you want longevity and you want to understand how to optimize, that's not the way to do it.
Mhm. I got to
You
bring you two together somehow. That's my dream.
Well, I mean,
Because it's
like
it's a
I don't
productive
disagree. I
discussion.
don't disagree with
Doesn't have to be a
what he's
debate, but
doing.
it's just like
Right,
it's thought.
right.
Exploring thought patterns.
But also here's the thing that's different about me than anybody I've witnessed before. I was a PT through my whole international career.
Yeah, that's true. Because you have that athletic background.
I was a PT
Not
while
many
I
people
was
do.
winning world championships and going to
Yeah,
Olympic games and doing crazy Russian training and then
yeah,
crazy British training and like I saw all the stuff. That's what got me to this point
yeah.
because I saw like we're making huge mistakes and
Hmm.
nobody's paying attention to this.
Hmm.
I've been, you know,
So that's what
I've been a
makes.
U.S. Olympic weightlifting coach, a CSCS for, I did all that stuff,
Yeah.
but it doesn't answer any of these questions. That's
Hmm.
why I was like, this can make all that even more powerful.
Hmm.
It's not that the stuff doesn't work, but it's like you got all these
You
things
want to
that are errors.
supplement it. Yeah.
Not supplement it, build the foundation.
Yeah.
That moving spine model is like you're building a house on some sand. Build a nice, beautiful house on sand. First big storm comes, it's gonna fucking blow it away.
Yeah.
Column core system, we're building a 20-foot foundation of
Yeah.
3-foot wall
That's a good way to think about it.
concrete.
Yeah.
And then you can do all your other stuff on top of that,
So when that
all that
storm
other stuff.
comes, yeah, you're solid.
Right. You
Yeah.
can do all that moving spine stuff if you have to,
Yeah.
right? So my son's doing decathlon, he's got to move his spine a bunch.
Hmm.
You know how much column core training he does? He does a lot. And he's unbelievable performance. Because the coaches at his club who are high level coaches, they're like, they saw like the other coaches like who is this kid?
Yeah.
He can
Killing
train
it.
all day long and he never gets hurt.
Yeah.
Right?
He's got a
That's what I
solid
want.
foundation.
Yeah, because he's got to move his back. He's pole vaulting and he's
Yeah.
high jumping, and
Right.
so I know he's gonna have to do
But
that.
you
But
can do that once you have
I'm
the
building this
foundation.
other foundation
Yeah.
so he can tolerate that.
That makes perfect sense.
And now he's getting faster and stronger, and
Right.
he's a freak.
Right. So you can't, yeah, you can't have a solid, you can't have a fancy roof and some nice windows without a good
Right. So
foundation.
everybody else is doing they're
So
doing it on a house that's built on sand.
yes,
I'm doing a house
exactly.
that's built on
Yeah.
I'm not saying you still can't get injured, but
Right.
your injury risk is
Right.
almost infinitesimal.
Right. Putting a silk suit on a pig,
And your
essentially. Yeah.
performance goes way up, right?
Yeah.
So I have the data from rowing. I have the coaches. These are world class coaches who've won Olympic medals. They're like, my guys made this unbelievable change in 8 weeks once I got them on the machine. Just mind boggling. Like things would take a guy
Yeah.
10 years to make. They're
Hmm.
doing in 8 weeks.
Have you ever thought about writing a book, publishing
I
this
did write
data?
a book. I need to edit it though. Yeah.
Okay. And then publish it. Yeah. Because I think if you put that into writing and you show, I'm interested in like
I
making,
need
doing
help, so
some
I'm all for
sort
it.
of video format because people my age, like, I like reading. I've spent, the last 6 years of PT school and undergrad, like,
Yeah.
reading research because I'm interested in it. Not everybody likes reading. So if you could if I could help you put that in like a video format, documentary, like that's what people want to digest because people's attention spans, not everybody my age wants
Right.
to sit
No,
down and
no,
read a
no,
book.
right.
So if you make like a few, if we have a goal to make a few YouTube videos or, TikTok, Instagram, or, short form, digestible, um, informative, you know, productions, I
Yeah,
think
I'm
that's going to be the way
definitely.
to spread the philosophy.
I think, at this point, I'm looking for that help
Yeah,
because, like, I know what I'm really good at,
yeah,
and I have marketed and sold a bunch of stuff, and I created this whole thing, but I don't have the it's not my like deeper
forte.
drive.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you can't be good at everything,
yeah,
right? I'm good at a couple things,
yeah.
and this is what I do, like the things that I've shared, but
Mhm.
I'm trying to get it to the world because I know it's going to change people's lives.
Yeah,
Already has. I've
yeah,
changed thousands of people's lives. It
yeah.
just you could do it at a much bigger level because
Exactly.
people are lost in the confusion about stuff that's really less
Doesn't
important
matter.
because they're just building a house on the sand.
Yeah,
They're doing all this stuff and all these training stuff, but I'm like, let's build a real house,
yeah.
a real foundation for human movement, so you can live to 120 years old and not be like
Mhm.
in a freaking wheelchair, right?
Mhm. I'm seeing that right now with the people I was telling
Yeah,
you about, like the older patients I'm working with. I was working with mostly 60 to 85 year
yeah,
olds,
yeah, yeah,
and they all,
yeah. They're
after they retire, become
non-exercisers.
sedentary.
Yeah,
All right, a couple more questions, real quick, and I'll
yeah,
get you out of
yeah,
here.
yeah.
What time do you have to
Well,
start?
we could.
That's true. We could cut this.
I gotta go get measured for
Oh,
a
okay, okay.
brace for my knee, so I gotta get going.
One other thing I wanted to say. Um, so we were talking. We kind of started talking about. You mentioned there's deeper levels to the mind body connection and all the emotional experiences that are involved with the pain experience,
Right.
right? What do you think, like, a patient's mindset and body awareness, what kind of role does that play in terms of their rehab journey, and how do you help someone connect with movement in a positive way after they've come to associate it with pain?
Well, I think the beauty of the Calm Core system is you can start to. So then I'll do some diaphragmatic breathing and other stuff just to calm down their vagus nerve and all the
Yes,
pain stuff.
yes. I'm a big fan
When
of
I
breath
feel like
work.
it's necessary, I'll do it. We don't always have time, but
Yeah,
all
no,
I'm
it's
trying to do is give them. I don't make this complicated. I give them these couple simple movements to start to shift their pain,
yeah,
to see that they can actually make a change because they're stuck in this loop of pain. Everything I
yes,
do hurts, it
yep.
hurts, it hurts, it hurts. And so like
Show them a
now,
little glimmer of
yeah,
light.
show like, hey, it's not hurting as much, and so I can motivate. So my
Yeah.
only goal with every person I ever work with is to motivate them to do the Calm Core system.
So
That's
they can
my
take
only
back
goal.
control of their
I
pain.
don't have any other goal.
Yeah,
I just want to motivate them because I know it'll change their life.
yeah,
Now, not everybody's going to take me up on it, and I'm okay with that.
right.
But the people that are ready to do it, they're going to
Mhm,
show up.
mhm.
So I'll start to change their life. And
Yeah.
are they going to get hurt again? Maybe because they may fall off the wayside. I'm not going to.
Or off a roof.
Yeah, right. So yeah, so that's my only. I only have that one goal. I never have any other goal.
Yeah.
So when I meet somebody, my only goal is to try to get them to do it
Empower them to take control of
of
their
their
pain.
own self
Yeah.
because I can't do it for
Yep.
them.
Yeah. And that's all through soft skills, motivational
Yeah, it's
interviewing.
just years of doing it.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I just got to read the person. You got to figure out where they are.
Exactly.
Super anxious, laid back. Where are they mentally, and how are you
Exactly.
going to get them to start to do stuff?
Yep. That's
Make it
true.
simple or whatever. They might want more.
Yeah.
Some of the athletes want more stuff. I'll give them that. I'll give them what they need to get them going, to shift the switch,
Mhm.
to see that they can actually be in control of their life, not pain is managing their life and they're out of control.
Yeah.
Like pain's guiding their life. They can't do anything without being in pain. That's all I think about.
Mhm.
Like
Just
you got to
giving
break
them
that
a little
somehow,
glimmer of hope.
right? So then you're going to motivate them to
Yeah.
go, which is my only
And I
goal.
tell people that all the time. Once you build, like, momentum's underrated. Once you get the
Yeah.
ball rolling a little bit, it
But
moves quickly.
it's a habit though. It's not just till you get better,
Right. So that sustainability is a whole
right?
separate issue we could
I
spend
mean,
hours
so like
talking about.
I categorize it with water,
Yeah.
air, and food. I say understanding your body is an essential element. It's not I can just do it on the side or never do it again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it has to be. Otherwise, you're not gonna. They're not gonna get the most out of it.
Mhm.
Right?
It's yeah. And
It's an essential component for your human condition in this physical
right.
experience. It's
Weaponize the
your body
experience.
is your tool. It's
Yes.
the only tool you have. You have no
Exactly.
other tool.
Yeah. We're stuck in this meat sack.
Right. So you
You got
have
to make it
to. You
work.
want to cherish that and honor it, not just treat it like a piece
Disrespect
of
it.
crap.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. And
Exactly.
that's what most people are taught. Like
Yeah.
disregard it.
Yeah. You have this. you'll cross that bridge when you get there, but most people take it for granted until they run into a major injury. Yeah, facts. All right, Bob, I'll let you go.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. So I gotta, yeah.
No,
So
this is
no,
perfect.